Hi, Philippe and Sigourney. How are you today?
Very
Very
good,
well,
Bonnie.
thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to see you too. And Philippe, I love this film. I really felt so good watching it, also being a big fan of Salinger's. But what was it about Joanna Rakoff's memoir that kind of stuck with you and said, you know what, I'm going to make this into a film?
I was moved at the end of the book. I was crying. I was at my father's cottage, my parents' cottage, and I remember ending the book and crying. So I knew it touched something very intimate in me. The irony is that like the thing that made me cry at the end of the book is not in the movie, but it was the journey. It was Joanna's journey, the time of your life where you are overwhelmed by all the possibilities. You have some dreams, things you want to do. You're not sure if you'll be able to, and you live in this semi-angst. But in hindsight, 20 years later, when you look at that time of your life, you say, wow, that was the best time of my life. And I didn't even realize it back then.
Right.
So I think that moved me quite a lot. And I wanted to revisit that moment, but through the perspective of a woman's point of view. I made a lot of films with male characters. And this time around, I was really looking for some material to tell a story from a woman's perspective. And I found it in Joanna's book.
Yeah, it's wonderfully told. And Sigourney, for you, I mean, just connecting with Philippe, it's wonderful that you're in this film. But I have to say, nobody commands authority like you on the big screen, on the small screen. You're so great. And just ironically this weekend, flipping around and Working Girl was back on again. And it reminded me a lot of this character a little bit. What is it about? What does that say about you?
I don't know. I have no authority in real life,
Oh, yeah.
No, really. I mean, I'm just a sort of elf, I'm glad that I convinced you. And I think that I wasn't really mentored in this way. But I think I always dreamed of someone with those kind of credentials and that kind of life force like Margaret has, being there to look up to. And I mean, in a way, Joanna has two mentors.
Yes.
Margaret, who's kind of, I don't know, a bit half mentor. But I know that every time I've seen the film and I see that section where J.D. Salinger on the phone just says, "You're a writer, Joanna," I burst into tears.
Yes.
So he's mentoring her over the phone. I think, Philippe is so amazingly skillful to be able to bring J.D. Salinger to life with all these subtle touches. And he becomes such an important character to Joanna in the movie. And because of that, to all of us, whether, because we're all fans basically, but it's such a special story because of that.
I totally agree.
Sigourney is quite the opposite than Margaret in real life.
Well, we know that.
Very funny woman. She made us laugh before every take, like just rehearsing. And so she's quite the opposite. But I think it's that natural charisma, panache, and that velvet kind of low voice that allows her to play like tough woman.
Yeah, keep using that velvety low voice, Sigourney. You've got something going there, I have to say.
Wow, I fooled you both.
Sigourney, did you ever get a fan letter that really stuck with you?
The fan letters that have stuck with me are those occasionally the sort of really strange ones. But of course.
So you got my love letter when I was 12?
It makes me think of this letter I wrote to John Lennon in violet writing on violet stationery that I put my mother's perfume on. This is when I was 12.
Wow.
I left it at a restaurant he was known to frequent. I never found out what happened. But so we all have these relationships with these gods, whether it's in music or art or writing. And I think it's such a great thing to try to dramatize for movies. This special relationship that so many, falling in love with a book and falling in love with a writer. It's such an intimate, private, wonderful experience. And to be able to make it cinematic in such a delicious way, I'm just, my hat's off to Philippe for doing that.
Yeah, it is really such a wonderful, lovely film. Margaret is so good in it. Everybody is so wonderful in this. And thank you so much for it. And just I have to add, Sigourney, thank you for showing me how to tie my sweater in a different way over my shoulder. That's a very cool way to wear a sweater.
Well, I'm so glad you noticed it. That was my costume designer, Anne Roth. And when she first did it, I thought it was so Margaret-y.
Yeah.
All these things she puts around her neck, to make her look, sort of carefree, which is, of course, the last thing she is.
It's the new fashion style. Thank you so much to both of you, and a wonderful film. Great having the opportunity to talk to you today. Thank you so much for your time.